Ladies and gentlemen, I wish I could be with you today in Chongqing. It may be one of China's three great furnaces, but it's one of my favorite cities in China. I love its food, its dramatic topography, and its stunning architecture and bridges. I remember it fondly. But the last time I was in Chongqing was 29 years ago. Then, as U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense, I accompanied Secretary of Defense Bill Perry to Chongqing to inaugurate the General Joseph W. Stilwell Museum. Then as now, the site of the museum was General Stilwell's home during his wartime assignment as Chief of Staff to Chiang Kai-shek. I remember being moved by the exhibits of his service to the United States and China on display there. In ancient Greece, when an ally asked for help, Athens characteristically sent an army or navy. Sparta, which prided itself on its military excellence, would instead send a general to organize, train, and lead the Allies' armed forces. When President Roosevelt sought to help China, he sent General Stilwell to do the same for the Chinese army. Joe Stilwell was a soldier's soldier. He had a fighting man's distaste for pomp and circumstance. His trademarks were a battered Army campaign hat, GI shoes, and a plain service uniform with no insignia of rank. He frequently carried a Springfield rifle in preference to a sidearm. He cared about the troops he led, many of whom repaid his respect and affection for them by calling him Uncle Joe. On the other hand, his occasional harsh critiques of what he viewed as substandard performance by forces that he was training also earned him the nickname Vinegar Joe. Vinegar Joe Stilwell knew and loved China, having served 3 previous tours there, including one as military attaché at the U.S. legation in Beijing. He respected the Chinese people and was confident that with the right training and leadership, Chinese soldiers could outfight the Japanese. Helping China to defeat Japan was both his official mission and his personal obsession. This focus led Stilwell to demand the reform of the then Chinese army and the selection of its officers for their abilities and uninvolvement with corruption. Stilwell's determination to beat Japan also led him to advocate cooperation between the Chinese government's forces and the People's Liberation Army, whose austerity and warfighting abilities he admired. On at least one occasion, he reportedly expressed frustration that he could not fight alongside General Zhu. General Stilwell's views, as well as his blunt way of speaking, expressing them, made his relationship with Chiang Kai-shek increasingly tense. Jiang had been fighting the Japanese for 5 years before Stilwell's arrival in Chongqing, and the Chinese Communist Party for 10 years before that. He had consolidated his political position through patronage. He did not want to see the organization of competent armed forces that were not beholden to him. Many of those in military leadership positions that Stilwell wanted to replace held their positions because of their personal relationships with Jiang and were valued by him as reliable supporters of his continuation as China's commander-in-chief. But most important, unlike Stilwell, Jiang was looking past the end of the war with Japan to a future showdown with the People's Liberation Army. Stilwell wanted to defeat Japan. So did Jiang, but he also wanted to save as much strength as he could to resume his war with the Chinese Communist Party once Japan had been defeated. These disagreements corroded and ultimately destroyed General Stilwell's ability to work with Chiang Kai-shek, who engineered his removal from office and return to the United States. Stilwell's mission ended in failure ended by controversy. The controversy continues to this day in Beijing, Taipei, and Washington, each of which has a different view of the man and his wartime role. But to me, Vinegar Joe personifies all the Americans who did their best to help China when it most needed help. He and the museum dedicated to him symbolize a shared Sino-American history of cooperation under difficult circumstances. They inspire hope for renewed cooperation in the face of challenges to common interests. Were General Stilwell alive today, he would be dismayed by the current state of Sino-American relations, but he would also be astonished by Chongqing's and China's progress. He would share the pride of Chongqing's people in the transformation of this once beleaguered wartime capital of China into the world-class modern metropolis it is today. And I would offer to buy him a Chongqing Pijiu to join me in toasting what China has already accomplished and to wish it every future success.